Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and as I mentioned in the beginning that we have a very important and significant topic to be focusing on: the higher education and the education here in Egypt, and the quality of the education and the higher education for the students and for the youth, and how to be linking the education and the higher education with the competitiveness of the global labor market here in the country, on the Arab level, on the African level, and of course globally as well. And to be shedding more light on such an important topic, I'm honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight Dr. Mohamed Khalil Moussa, the educational consultant and the teacher trainer. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Anytime. Of course, we have seen over the past report a ranking for the Times Higher Education, the interdisciplinary science rankings. What is the importance of having 27 Egyptian educational institutions in this ranking?
Of course, it all adds up to the credibility of education in Egypt. Of course, we know quite well that we're looking nowadays at the marketability of our graduates. In other words, we're not simply grooming the students to be just labor in the local market. We're looking beyond that. We're looking for the international market standards.
Yes.
We know quite well that now we are trying to shape what we call the global student or the global person.
Yes.
In other words, by global I mean that the student is well equipped with all the tools and the knowledge required to be able to compete internationally. So when we look at this background of some accredited universities, of course this adds to the credibility of graduates, especially that there's always that myth that some students are simply university illiterate.
Yes.
In other words, that they graduated but still they're not up to the level internationally or even locally.
Yes.
But now we can say wholeheartedly that some Egyptian universities, and we hope that the rest of the universities will join the queue and they will get the accreditation. So once again, it's very, very important to understand that when graduates from universities get the knowledge and the skills and the expertise required for the market, and they come from a university which is accredited, of course this all adds up to what we call academic prestige. Because when they travel, or even when they work virtually,
yes,
online, at the end of the day, they say, I graduated from Cairo University, for example, maybe because this is where I belong, so I say Cairo University. Okay, that's good, you see. So Cairo University is quite famous for the high caliber.
Yes.
The prestige of a university can be shown in the ability of graduates to cope with the challenges which are already there in the market, locally and internationally. And let me just share something. One of the concerns,
yes, please.
The whole world now is simply talking about artificial intelligence and whether artificial intelligence and robots will take over. And maybe after that we can find artificial intelligence teachers going into the classroom and simply teaching. Or maybe we'll find after that robot presenters to be presenters.
We do have that now in China.
So once again, and I always keep telling my students at private universities or even at Cairo University that you have to develop your emotional and intellectual intelligence to be able to be ready for the future challenges.
As Doctor, you mentioned a very important topic and a very important point, which is here in Egypt we are now trying to be qualifying the students or the pupils or anyone who is trying to graduate college, not just for the local market, not just for the Arab or the African markets, for the international market, the standards of the international markets. Is there a gap between the Egyptian standards here in the market and the global one?
That's an interesting question.
Yes.
Definitely yes. There is a gap.
Is it a big one?
Okay, let's be honest about that. I know it's the daily debate, but let's be honest.
Yes.
There could be a gap, but it depends on the quality of the university, depends on the quality or the, the abilities and the aptitudes of some students. I mean that you can find some students are simply kind of certificate-oriented.
Yes.
I think you know what I mean, that many students are simply thinking about certificates. And even students, when they take courses, the very first thing they ask about when they take courses, am I going to take a certificate?
Yes.
So with this caliber, those kind of students who've got this shallow understanding of education that simply goes down into a certificate, they're not ready. This is what I call the superficial.
On the global level, you think it would be different?
Yeah, of course. I'll tell you something funny, that now international companies, they simply shy away from Harvard graduates. Because students who graduate from Harvard, they paid a lot of money. So they require a lot of money. So some international companies, they prefer students from other countries who are promising, regardless of the certificates. It's not about certificates. So let's go back to your question.
Yes.
Is there a gap between the international market and the domestic market? Definitely yes. But once again, let me not generalize, because generalization goes against the principles of academia.
Yes.
Yes, some students definitely are well prepared for the global market. And those students who are, number one, they've got a very good control of language. English, German, French, Spanish, Chinese. Number two, plus language, a very good command of artificial intelligence and technology.
Yes.
They can use all the technological aids and devices to boost their career. Number three, professional development. Number four, it's very important for undergraduates, not graduates, undergraduates, to have the work skills. And by the way, while I'm teaching my students at Cairo University, I keep telling them you've got to develop the work skills. Work skills means, well, by work skills I mean that you've got to understand how to work under pressure, how to develop negotiation skills, how to develop this eye contact ability, presentation skills, to listen, accept difference, and problem-solving skills. The problem here is that some students have been raised by their parents to say yes.
Yes.
But the problem is that other cultures do not appreciate a yes person. Of course, you know, the yes man.
Yes.
The yes man is appreciated in some cultures, but yes man outside is not appreciated. They keep making fun of him. Because I don't want you, I don't want you simply to say yes. I want you to say, okay, let me think about that. Let me think out of the box. Let me think critically about that. Things. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That students should be prepared with critical thinking, presentation skills, negotiation skills, respect, eye contact, confidence. By doing that, we're preparing our kids for the global market. And this is what I keep telling the parents. Parents who are watching me now, please don't push the students. Just tell them, I need the certificates. I want you to every month to get the highest scores, the highest marks. Being a top achiever does not necessarily guarantee that you are an achiever in the world of market.
Doctor, you mentioned a very significant term, which is university illiterate. We have a lot of them, maybe millions here in Egypt, but on the global level as well, this seems to be a problem. You mentioned that Harvard students, they would be finding it hard to find adequate jobs with a good pay at the same time. How can we be solving this problem? Because we have, I would say, at least tens of thousands of university graduates every year who expect to have a good job by the end of their education or their higher education. They expect to be having a good salary by the end of their higher education journey as well, and they get disappointed, sometimes very disappointed, because they don't have these expectations translated on the ground, not just in Egypt, but on the global level as well. How can we be defending the university degrees nowadays?
University degrees, I think we are trying to change the mindset of our students. Changing the mindset that, let me just explain the very important term which is quite trendy nowadays, Generation Z. Generation Z or Gen Z, those, the youth or those who belong to Generation Z, despite all the criticism they receive, they are well aware of all the challenges that they may encounter outside and inside. By this I mean that they're so much aware that they need to develop some skills. It's not just about the certificate. Now, youth in the universities are not fascinated by the idea of having a university certificate. Now, I go to many public and private universities, and I find many students are working to support themselves financially, but also to make sure that they've got the skills required to work the moment they graduate. Generation Z, because of this awareness, which is twofold, in other words, on one hand, they realize the problem, but on the other hand, the problem is that sometimes they fall into the problem of depression, because too much awareness could lead to depression.
Yes.
So they're so much aware that the problem could be, it's not just a certificate. The certificate will not guarantee a job for you. So I've got to develop my work skills, my language, and that's why you find many university students nowadays taking self-study courses. They're trying to work, even at call centers. They work at call centers to support themselves and to improve their language, to improve their personality, their skills, their work skills. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the certificate. And they are so much aware, because of globalization, the TikToks and the internet and the social media, they're so much aware of all the hassles happening in the jungle of work. They know quite well that if I go out with nothing but the certificate, this will not qualify me to get a well-paid or a thriving job. So they try to develop themselves. Going back to your question, is that in order for the students to be kind of university graduates, to have the certificate, they have to think about the university requirements at the very beginning of the university education. Since the first year, they have to know quite well they've got a list or a to-do list that they have to accomplish by the completion of their tertiary education or university education.
Yes.
So they know quite well that I have to language, technology, computer, I have to get the taste of work, I've got to be independent of my parents, financially develop and improve myself, develop personality and interpersonal skills. This is quite important. And if we look at things from the point of view of professors, professors nowadays do not provide exams based on memorizing, or what we call rote learning. Memorize. I memorize something and then I throw up all the knowledge. You know, students usually in the good old days, we used to do what? Memorize everything and we throw up all the knowledge in the paper and we get the certificate. But now, every professor, I'm talking about university level, university professors, they're trying to integrate something like critical thinking questions. And this has started actually in the high school as well. So university professors keep all the time emphasizing the importance of projects, teamwork, presentation skills, all levels, faculty of medicine, agriculture, faculty of engineering, all professors are now aware that it's not a matter of studying certain chapters to pass the exam. What's more important is that I've got this knowledge, students know how to use the knowledge in the world of market, they how to present it, and they keep reminding them that they can have something like cultural exchange with other universities. For example, I keep telling my students at Cairo University, you have to go outside. Think about culture exchange programs. Think about traveling abroad for 1 month, work and come back. It's very important to be exposed to diverse cultures because this will add up to your cultural intelligence, soft skills. At the end of the day, it's a global world. We've been talking about globalization, and this is the core of globalization, that students or university students are aware of all the obstacles and all the hassles around the world. And of course, most importantly, artificial intelligence, which is a threat to the human race.
Yes, in Egypt, Generation Z or Gen Z, as you mentioned, Doctor, of course, a lot of criticism globally that there is a change in their culture, a change in their mindset and their attitudes as well, and the working skills, as you always tell your students. Do you think that this will be changing maybe in a decade, in 2 decades here in Egypt? The culture itself will be changing on the streets, dealing with everyone here in the country?
Yes, of course. I think you can see that. In reality, you can touch the whole change. In reality, Generation Z is bringing, and by the way, there is another generation after Generation Z, which is called, I think, Alpha Generation.
Yes.
And they are only 10 to 12 years old. And by the way, another type of generation.
May God protect us.
Yes, may God protect us. They are kind of obsessed with technology, and you can see my kid, my daughter, my youngest daughter, Jude, she's 10 years old, and she's all the time on the YouTube. She knows what's happening outside.
Yes.
So I want to tell you that if I go back to when I was a kid, 30, 35 years ago, my only dream was simply to get some chocolates. Now, their dream is to have a subscription on a certain channel to be able to play on Roblox and other video games applications. So this kind of change will bring the market into a kind of a different dimension. And by the way, the major problem with the Generation Z and the generation after that is the loss of verbal intelligence. Emotional intelligence is going down. I'm not criticizing them. I'm telling you the positives and negatives.
Yes.
For example, listen to this. I don't know if you've got kids or not.
No.
Okay. If you text a kid who's 10 years old, or even 20, if you text a person who's 20 years old and you tell them, I miss you very much, you can find that person, 20 years Generation Z, replying with an emoji, a thumb up,
or a sticker,
a flower, a sticker.
Yes.
So this takes us back to the ages before language was created.
Yes.
We are going backwards in terms of linguistic abilities. Emotional intelligence.
And communication.
So this will lead to social problems within the relations. Relations will be mainly pragmatic. By pragmatic means it's a kind of a win-win relation, or I don't want it. So it's a kind of a very tough situation after that. But economically, there'll be kind of, economically the economy will be booming with such a generation who know quite well how to play the game.
Yeah, so pros and cons, we'll be having more money and less talk.
Yes. And once again, no generation is kind of 100% devils.
Yes.
No, there is the positive or the negative as well. And we've got to be very optimistic that, honestly speaking, Egyptian youth are talented. They're full of powers. Egyptian youth need people to listen to them, to groom them for the market. But they're full of powers, and they can work under pressure.
Yes, Doctor, and we will be focusing on the other report of the daily debate for tonight and shedding more light on the investments, the fiscal investments. About 42% of the 2024-2025 fiscal investments will be heading to the Egyptian educational sector. We'll be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.